Please go to finneganswakenotes.net for a full explanation of the text, and please don't forget to hit the like button.
Welcome to episode 20 of the Reading Finnegans Wake in 200 Sessions podcast, where we analyze Finnegans Wake by James Joyce 3 pages at a time. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Now let's jump right into it. Today we're plunging into pages 66 through 69 of Finnegans Wake, and this is a segment that's, well, it's as dense and dreamlike as anything Joyce ever penned, really. For many people, Finnegans Wake can feel like this impenetrable fortress of language. So our mission today, like always, is to be your guides. We want to help you navigate this really intricate literary landscape, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights for you, basically make this complex journey a bit of a shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Indeed, and this particular deep dive, it really is like sifting through an archaeological site, but one made of language and myth, Every layer holds something new. Our sources, the annotations, scholarly analyses, linguistic notes, they're like our tools. Our trowels and brushes helping us understand the intricate layers Joyce has laid down. What's truly remarkable here, I think, is how Joyce manages to weave together these seemingly disparate narratives. They look separate at first, but they form this cohesive, if confusing whole. We're going to encounter a mysterious, undelivered letter, feels like it holds the key to everything. Then there's the curious case of a stolen coffin that's definitely more than it appears. We also get this comical, but ultimately quite revealing, police testimony about a disturbance and assault at a gate, and then the contrasting and rather tragic fakes of two women who are linked right back to the central events of the wake. So it's a journey into how rumor works, how memory functions, societal judgment, all packed into just these few pages. It really demands that we question what we think we know. The Unfolding Mystery of the Chain Letter, pages 66.060.27.
Okay, so the section kicks off with a question, doesn't it? It immediately sets this tone of anticipation, maybe uncertainty for us. Will it ever be next morning the postal unionists, officially called carriers, Letterscotch, Limited, strange fate to hand in a huge chain envelope? And we get introduced to this postal unionist, a carrier named Fearson Gidex. He's a Height D.E. the Losel. So what's the immediate vibe? What's the first impression Joyce wants us to get of this postman?
Well, the very first descriptor right there, the Losel, it's an archaic term, means a scoundrel, a good-for-nothing. So that paints him in a pretty unflattering light straight away, doesn't it? Hints at a character who might be, let's say, less than upright.
Okay, so not exactly Mr. Reliable Postman.
Not quite. But then the name itself, Fearson Gidex, I mean, it's classic Joyce, a brilliant portmanteau. It strongly alludes to Vercingetorix, the first century BC Gallic chieftain, famous for revolting against the Romans, got defeated by Caesar in the end.
Right. Vercingetorix. Okay, so this isn't just a simple delivery guy.
Exactly. He carries this weighty, almost historical burden, maybe even a sense of impending defeat or a fated sort of beleaguered role, a bit like HCE himself, actually Humphrey Chimpden Earwicker, the central male figure of the wake, who's often maligned, often misunderstood. So this postman, you could say, is a kind of microcosm of HCE.
Wow, okay. That immediately gives him much grander, almost mythic significance. And then Joyce describes him as someone who hucks around Missive Maid's gummy backs. What are the layers we're meant to uncover there? Sounds a bit suggestive.
It is, yeah. Incredibly rich phrasing. Hucks can mean hawks, like peddling or selling. So maybe he's not just delivering mail. Maybe he's distributing something else. Or even, gossiping about the contents of the letters he carries.
Okay.
And gummy bags, well, on one level, it refers quite literally to postal stamps. Gummy is German for rubber, so it's the sticky back of a stamp. Simple enough. But as some of our sources point out, there's definitely a more suggestive reading possible. The Losel might be lurking, trying to glimpse the Missive Maid's backside.
Ah, right. Adds that layer of illicit voyeurism.
Exactly, and that connects right back to the HCE motif of transgression, of being observed, maybe doing things he shouldn't. So the bottom line here is that our postman isn't just some innocent conduit for communication. He's woven into the very fabric of gossip, voyeurism, potential scandal that just permeates the wake. And the letter he carries, it's a chain envelope, a chain letter. And we're told it's written in 7 diverse stages of ink, from blanche essence to lavandayette.
7 different stages of ink. That's such a vivid detail.
Yeah.
So specific and kind of unusual. Beyond just the visual, what does that imply? This elaborate, almost performative way of writing.
Yeah.
What does it tell us about the letter's importance? Or maybe who really wrote it?
It's immediately striking, isn't it, this imagery of 7 diverse shades. And it links directly to the 7 colors of the rainbow. That's a recurring theme in the Wake, symbolizing cycles time, transformation, maybe the diverse perspectives on a single event.
Right, the rainbow connection.
Yeah. And beyond that visual, one source mentions John O'Donovan pointing out a J.C. Mangan poem that was written in 7 different inks. So there might be a literary precedent for this kind of, well, elaborate, almost performative writing. But the French terms are key too. Blanchissage means laundry, and lavandière is a washerwoman.
Ah, the washerwomen. They keep popping up.
They do, and they're very significant. They're often associated with ALP and Livia Plurabelle. HCE's female counterpart represents the river Liffey, the flowing, ever-changing nature of history, language. So this links the letter's creation to the act of washing, cleansing, maybe even rewriting history, you know.
Interesting. Okay. And what about every pot hook and pan crook bespaking the wisherwife?
That phrase really enriches it further, brings in the domestic sphere. Pothooks refers to rudimentary writing, almost like a child's writing, suggests maybe the raw, unfiltered nature of the letter's content. And pancrook evokes pots and pans, which is rhyming slang for old man or husband, so it subtly brings HDCE into the picture.
Okay, so the husband is implicated somehow.
Seems so. And the idiom, by hook or by crook, by any means necessary that's embedded there too, suggests the lengths the wisherwife went to, crafting this message. The wisherwife herself. She's both a washerwoman and a nun-wishwash who's a personification of ALP writing this new letter. So this description tells us the letter is this deeply personal, almost ceremonial creation. It carries layers of domestic drama, historical echo, symbolic meaning, the whole package.
Okay, so this incredibly complex letter, written by the wisherwife, is then superscribed and subpenciled by yours, a laughable party, with afterweight SAG, to Hyde and Cheek, Edenberry, Dubblenn, WC. Wow. That address is a puzzle in itself. What's Joyce telling us about who it's for?
You're right. The address is a total labyrinth. Linguistically, thematically, it's designed to reveal and conceal at the same time. The laughable party and the wisherwife, these are more instances of the ALP motif. Shows her presence or influence all over this. Afterwhite, that's clever. It means both a postscript, like an afterthought, and hindsight, or wisdom after the event. Suggests the letter might contain reflections, maybe clarifications offered with the benefit of experience, a retrospective attempt to make sense of the past.
Okay, like looking back on things.
Exactly. And the SAG, that's a wonderful little detail. It stands for St. Anthony Guide. Pious Catholics used to write that on envelopes to issue a safe delivery. Adds a touch of folk belief, a plea for divine help in the letter's journey.
St. Anthony guide this letter.
But the recipient, Hyde and Cheek, that's where the central insight really lies, I think. It immediately brings in the HCE motif, particularly that idea of Heidsick hinting at something concealed, a hidden identity, which is fundamental to HCE's character, right? But even more significantly, it just screams R.L. Stevenson's strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, yes, of course. Hyde and Cheek, Jekyll and Hyde.
Precisely. Hinting at a dual nature, maybe a hidden, darker side to the recipient, which is a common characteristic of HCE himself. He's often portrayed with this public facade and then this scandalous private life lurking underneath.
So the recipient isn't just one person, but this complex, maybe duplicitous figure. What about the geographical clues in the address? Edenberry, Dublin, WC.
Yeah, the address itself is this fascinating geographical composite. It expands the letter's scope way beyond just a local delivery. Edenberry, Dublin, WC's refers to Edenberry in County Offaly, that's in Ireland. Then Edinburgh, Scotland's capital, Dublin, Ireland's capital. And WC is specifically the West Central Postal District of London. So, as our sources confirm, this highlights London as the largest of the main cities of Scotland, Ireland, and England. It suggests this broad, almost national scope for the letter. It encompasses the entire British Isles and their complex, often conflicted, history.
Wow, so it's a personal mystery wrapped up in a national drama.
You could definitely say that, yeah.
And the language inside the letter is described as Lappish language with inbursts of Magyar always seems composed, black looking white and white guarding black. In that Siamix Tuatalk use twist, stern swift, and jolly Roger. I mean, that sounds like a linguistic maze, almost deliberately designed to obscure everything.
It is, and this description is really a microcosm of Finnegans Wake itself, isn't it? Joyce is playing with so many ideas here, but the most significant connection seems to be to the fragmented, multi-layered nature of language and communication. Lappish is Finno-Ugric. Magyar is Hungarian, another Finno-Ugric language. That ties into the Majesty motif, often linked to the letter and to Issy, HCE and ALP's daughter.
Okay, so linguistic links there. What about symposed?
Symposed, another brilliant portmanteau. Blending, composed, transposed, superimposed, maybe even semi-transposed, suggests this constant shifting of meaning. Words are never fixed, always in flux, layered over each other, and black looking white and white guarding black that plays on the dark fair motif, a recurrent duality in the Wake, but also evokes blackguard for a scoundrel, hints at villainy, deception.
Right. Things aren't what they seem.
Exactly. But at its core, Siamix Tuatalk, that directly evokes Siamese twins and double talk, explicitly implying ambiguity, dual meanings. It's a language designed to confuse, or maybe to hold multiple truths at the same time. It's the language of rumor, the language of dreams.
So the language itself is part of the mystery. And then we get that phrase, twist Jern Swift and Jolly Roger. What's that adding?
Well, that clearly points to Jonathan Swift and Lawrence Sterne, two hugely influential literary figures famous for their complex, multi-layered prose, their innovative use of language. Tristram Shandy, Gulliver's Travels.
Okay, so Joyce is putting himself in conversation with them.
Absolutely, placing his own work alongside these masters of literary experiment. And Jolly Roger, well, it's not just the iconic pirate flag, though that visually echoes the black-looking white race, doesn't it? But it's also, as our sources note, 18th century slang for fuck.
Right. Adds a sexual undertone.
It does. Hints at hidden desires, illicit acts, maybe.
Yeah.
And Roger Cox was also Swift's parish clerk, so that grounds this literary allusion in a specific Dublin connection, too. So this letter, it's far from just a simple message. It's a nexus of national identity, personal secrets, literary games, written in a language that constantly shifts, conceals, and reveals all at once. It's a key insight into how Joyce crafts meaning throughout the whole book.
Okay, so the core question of this whole passage seems to be whether this incredibly dense coded letter will ever bright upon us, nidal, and we plunging to our plight. Well, it might now. Merkel, so it light. What's really at stake here for us, the listener, this kind of cosmic uncertainty?
It's all about revelation versus concealment, isn't it? That's the heart of this deep dive, really. Bright upon us means come to light, and that echoes, so it light. Suggests the potential for truth to emerge, for clarity to finally pierce through all this obscurity. The line itself, it references Percy French's popular song, Are Ye Right There, Michael? Brings in the Micnic motif, and Merkel is this play on Michael and miracle. Hints at the potential for a miraculous or at least unexpected revelation.
A miracle might be needed to understand it.
Perhaps. And nidal, sounded with a soft I, evokes the night. And our plight is our difficult situation, our state of confusion, uncertainty in this world of conflicting narratives. As one source connects, this echoes the Ithaca episode in Ulysses, where our system plunging towards the constellation of Hercules suggests this huge cosmic uncertainty about whether clarity will ever prevail. Will this vital piece of information ever truly be understood? So the fate of this letter, its contents, it remains totally uncertain, hanging in the balance almost, waiting for some catalyst to unveil it. And Joyce then poses this question. Always and ever till Cox's wife, twice Mrs. Hahn, pokes her beak into the matter with Owen-Cray after her to see Wawa smutter after, will this curious pouch filled with litterish fragments lurk dormant in the paunch of that help brother of a herm, a pillar box.
Right. A hen poking her beak into the matter.
Whoa.
A curibus pouch.
Yeah.
And a pillar box. What are these final, almost comical pieces of the puzzle, the things that will determine the letter's fate?
This is where the domestic and the symbolic just intertwine with brilliant Joycean density. Cox's wife, twice Mrs. Hahn, plays on Cox's wife, or a hen, a common image for a meddling wife, or a woman who reveals secrets, like Biddy the hen, right? A recurring figure in the Wake.
Biddy the hen, okay.
In Ida, Countess von Hahn-Hahn, she was a real 19th century German novelist who took her married name from her cousin, who was also named von Hahn. So literally, Hahn-Hahn is cock-cock. It amplifies the hen image, the idea of a double identity, a repeated motif, pokes her beak into the matter. That's a clear idiom for meddling, for prying. Suggests that some external, probably nosy intervention is needed to bring the letter to light.
Okay, so a meddling hen figure and Owen-Cray.
Owen-Cray refers to the Owen-Cray River, or Blind River, suggests a hidden or obscure element, or maybe a source that is itself difficult to discern. And Wawa smutter after, that's complex. Could mean what was mother after, or what's the matter. But also smut, implying dirt, scandal, maybe even pornography. Hints at potentially salacious content within the letter.
So the letter holds something scandalous, and then there's this curibus pouch. What's that?
The Kiribati pouch is particularly fascinating. In Japan, it's a pouch with flintstones used in a good luck ceremony. Wards off evil spirits, you strike sparks for new endeavors. So this suggests the letter, despite its potential for smut, could also be a catalyst for something new, or a way to avert misfortune. It's ambiguous. It also links to Estonian kiri for letter, and the ibis, the sacred bird symbol of ancient Egyptian scribes, and Thoth, the god of writing, elevates the letter to almost sacred, magical status, or at least a document of profound significance.
Wow. So it contains good and bad, sacred and profane.
Exactly. The letter itself is seen as litterish fragments, potentially containing both good luck and ill, truth and scandal, just a jumbled collection of information. The half-brother of a herm refers to a half-brother and a herma, that's a quadrangular pillar with a head on top, often Hermes, the messenger god. And ultimately, this complex message is hidden in the pillar box, a common letterbox, which connects back to the boxcox motif we saw earlier. Joseph Campbell's synopsis frames it really succinctly. Or will this pouch filled with litterish fragments lurk dormant in the paunch of a pillar box till the little old hen pokes her beak into the matter? So the revelation of this crucial letter and the central truth it might hold, it just hangs in the balance, waiting for a catalyst, maybe this meddling woman, to finally bring its hidden truths out into the open. It's a really compelling setup for the rest of our deep dive. To Coffin, Illusion, Mortality, and Societal Norms, pages 66.28, 67.066.
Okay, so from the profound mystery of the letter, we transition to another intriguing object, equally symbolic it seems, the coffin, a triumph of the illusionist's art, at first blench naturally taken for a hand-harp. What's this about a coffin appearing to be a musical instrument? And what does that transformation tell us about appearances in the wake?
Yeah, this is where Joyce's playful subversion really comes into full view. He's constantly challenging our perceptions, isn't he? The phrase triumph of the illusionist's art, it immediately suggests a conjurer's trick, a sleight of hand, implying that what we see might not be what's really there. Our sources reveal Joyce had a note about triumph of printer's art, hints at how words themselves, how they're presented on the page, can create illusions, just like a magician does.
Ah, the medium is the message kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah. And at first blench just means at first sight, emphasizes this initial deceptive appearance. The profound irony here lies in mistaking a coffin, an object of ultimate finality, sorrow for a hand-harp, an instrument of life, music, celebration. This conflation suggests that life and death, creation and destruction, they're not separate, they're deeply intertwined, and that appearances can be deceiving, especially in the wake. This leads into that complex phrase. It is hand-warp to distinguish Jubabe from Jabul, or either from Tubot when all three have just been convened.
Right. Hand-warp to distinguish, hard work to tell them apart.
Exactly. Hand-warp implies hard work, and distinguish means thrice distinguish. So it's suggesting how difficult it is to discern truth or identity in Joyce's world, where things are constantly shifting, intermingling.
Okay, so who exactly are Jubad, Jabul, and Tabote? And why is it so hard to tell them apart, especially in the context of this deceptive coffin?
Well, these names refer to the three sons of Lamech, mentioned way back in Genesis 4.co. You've got Jubal, father of tent dwellers and cattle keepers, represents nomadic life. Jubal, father of all who handle the harp and organ, represents music, culture. And Tubal-Cain, instructor of artificers in brass and iron, represents craftsmanship, industry.
The founders of different human endeavors.
Precisely. They were all invented in the sense of being brought into being as these archetypes of human activity. The difficulty in distinguishing them highlights the blurred lines between these different aspects, how easily they can be confused, conflated. And this becomes particularly poignant in the context of a death ritual, right? Where the coffin, supposedly for repose, takes the form of a harp, an instrument of life and celebration. It blurs the very distinction between life and death. There's also a subtle link, maybe, to Tristan, King Mark's nephew. Hints at legendary romantic tragedy within this object of finality. Adds another layer of mythical resonance. So the coffin isn't just a container, it's a symbol of transformation, the deceptive nature of appearances. It holds within it the echoes of humanity's diverse origins and its ultimate end.
So this symbolic coffin, this instrument of illusion, we then learned it had been removed from the hardware premises of Oetzmann and Nephew and noted house of the gone most west, which in the natural course of all things continues to supply funeral requisites of every needed description. Okay, so a standard funeral supplier. Brings it back down to earth a bit.
Precisely. Oetzmann and Company were actual Dublin and London furnishers. Grounds this fantastic image in mundane reality. And the phrase, gone most west, that's clever. It's a play on gone west, meaning dead, obviously. But it's also an allusion to Horace Greeley's famous line, "Go west, young man," adds this layer of ironic ambition to death, suggests that even in death there's a journey, a final frontier.
Huh. Go west into the afterlife. Okay. But then Joyce asks, why needed, though? That challenges the whole premise of funeral rites, doesn't it?
It does. He's definitely challenging the very necessity of these funeral requisites, which apparently was a common phrase in Irish funeral ads back then, indicates a societal expectation for these elaborate farewells. But then he immediately answers himself, "Indeed needed. Wouldn't you feel like Rattan-Fowl if you hadn't the Oscar?"
Rattan-Fowl. What's it about?
Rattan-Fowl is Australian World War I slang for a shilling, basically means worth next to nothing. So the implication is, if you hadn't the Oscar being slang for money, cash, you might feel worthless or insignificant even in death.
Wow. That's a powerful statement about societal pressure. So are these elaborate funerals just about showing off, keeping up appearances? Or is there a deeper reason Joyce suggests they are needed?
Well, that's an excellent point. It seems to be a bit of a double-edged sword. They might reinforce status, yes, but our sources, particularly Gordon and Campbell, suggest a deeper societal mechanism at play here. The gist seems to be that these funerary articles serve as stark reminders of mortality. They're essential, maybe, to bring high-flying youth back down to earth, curb arrogance, remind everyone of their ultimate fate. Campbell even likens it to pose the mask of the Red Death, where death's inevitability just crashes the party. Highlights a societal mechanism to instill humility, prepare for the inevitable end. It's a way to ensure that no one, no matter how high and mighty, forgets their mortal coil.
Right, the great leveler. And this idea of bringing the high-flying down to earth is depicted so vividly with flash brides or brides in their lily boleros. One games with at the Nivy Nibby's finery ball, your upright grooms that always come right up with you. What else in this mortal world would bring them right, came back in the flesh, thumbs down to their horses and their hashes? I mean, it paints quite a picture of a fall from grace.
It truly does, and it raises that crucial question about the ephemeral nature of earthly joy, status, and the harsh, leveling reality of mortality. Flash brides implies flashy, showy, caught up in superficial appearances. Lily boleros, yeah, it's a type of short jacket, but it also alludes to that 17th century song Lily Bolero, which mocked Irish Catholics.
Yeah.
Adds a layer of historical, political undertone to this image of fleeting grandeur.
Interesting. And Nivy Nibbies.
Nivy-Nubes, beautiful blend of Latin words. Nize means snowy, nubes means clouds, and nubilis means marriageable. Suggests these ethereal, youthful, marriageable figures, almost like celestial beings, caught up in their finery, their elegant clothes, their outward displays, and the upright grooms that come right up with you, and then that by jingo from the song We Don't Want to Fight, but by jingo, if we do, it speaks to their confident, maybe arrogant posture, their self-importance.
And the imagery of their return in the flesh, thumbs down, to their horses and their hashes. It's so stark, so visceral.
It is indeed a powerful image of their ultimate fate. In the flesh means in bodily form, living, while thumbs down is that sign of rejection, condemnation. Symbolizes their fall from grace, their ultimate judgment. Horses and hashes' brilliant Joycian blend evokes horses and asses, obviously, equines, buttocks, but also orts and awful undesirable leftovers, that's from Ulysses, and crucially, ashes, as in ashes to ashes, emphasizes that return to their primal mortal state, stripped of finery, stripped of pride.
Back to the dust.
Exactly. And what's most profound here, perhaps, is the phrase, meet their night, mid their nacked, meet their necket, made their not, the hour strikes. This powerfully echoes the Bible, Job. Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. And most importantly, it's a clear reference to the motif of the four-stage Baconian cycle. That's Joyce's overarching theory of history, right? Humanity's cyclical rise and fall, divine, heroic, human, chaos, then a renewal. So the coffin, then, isn't merely for a body. It's a profound symbol in this grand cosmic cycle, a reminder that all, no matter how elevated, will eventually return to dust, and that human civilizations, too, inevitably return to an elemental state before new cycles begin. Heavy stuff.
3. The Gate Assault. A conflicted account, pages 67.07, 669.204.
Okay, now we shift. Abruptly, really. From the symbolic coffin and the grand cycle of humanity to a dramatic legal account. To proceed, we might leave that nitrience of oxygens to take its free of the air and just analectrolyze that very chimerical combination, the gas bag where the water works. I mean, this is certainly not your typical legal jargons, is it? What kind of atmosphere is Joyce setting for this testimony?
Not at all typical, no. He immediately establishes this playful, almost chaotic atmosphere for the testimony, blurs the lines between science and a courtroom drama, effectively warns us, the listeners, that what we're about to hear will be this unstable, maybe explosive mixture of truth and fabrication. He's blending scientific language with colloquialisms, his famous portmanteau words. Nitrients of oxygens refers to nitrogen and oxygen existing freely in the air. Apparently that's a direct quote from Roscoe's chemistry textbook, sets this pseudo-scientific tone.
Okay, like he's trying to be objective, but in a weird way.
Maybe. Or maybe mocking objectivity. An electrolyzed complex portmanteau again. Analyze, electrolyze, to decompose by electricity, and analects, gleanings or fragments. Hints at this fractured chemical breakdown of information, suggesting the truth will be dissected, maybe even distorted in the process. The chimerical combination refers to a chemical combination, sure, but also chimera, the mythical monster, implying something unreal, monstrous in this mix of facts and falsehoods.
So we're being told to expect a fantastical, maybe unreliable account right from the get-go. What about the gas bag where the water works?
That's a fantastic image, isn't it? A gas bag, colloquially, a boaster, someone who talks too much, but also literally a blimp or dirigible taking its free of the air, as one source notes, connects to the floating gases. Waterworks sounds like waterworks, crying maybe, but also alludes to wonder worker, a remedy for rental complaints mentioned in Ulysses.
Oh dear. Okay.
Sets up this unreliable, perhaps even flatulent or self-serving narrative. And the instruction to pour some more hydrogen up the ilmosphere that further exemplifies this playful scientific metaphor. Roscoe's chemistry apparently states hydrogen is lighter than air, can be poured upwards. Hydrogen, from German Heyer meaning Mary, is heard by scholars as hydrogen. And the ilmosphere is clearly the atmosphere. It's a very abstract, almost alchemical way to introduce a police report. Tells us what we're about to hear will be far from a straightforward deposition.
And who is testifying in this unconventional courtroom? We hear about Long Lally Top Kids, the special sporting a fine breast of medals and a conscientious scripture reader to boot in the brick and kin chorch around the coroner, swore like a Norwegian tailor on the stand before the proper functionary. He sounds quite the character, ready to present his version of events.
He certainly does. A wonderfully colorful, contradictory character, designed to raise our suspicions, I think. Long Lally Todd Kids is identified as a special constable, specifically Constable Sackerson, a recurring figure often associated with authority figures who are somehow compromised. The fine breast of medals has that delightful double meaning, humorously alluding to nice breasts. A mixed gender motif adds a touch of body humor.
Joyce can never resist, can he?
Rarely. And he's a conscientious scripture reader. Indicates his Protestant background. Suggests an air of moral uprightness, this public persona of piety. The setting, the brick and tin church around the corner, likely references the little church around the corner in New York City, a well-known landmark. But coroner also places the testimony in an official inquest-like context. Hints at a death or a serious incident at the heart of all this.
Okay, and then he swore like a Norwegian tailor. What does that tell us about his character or his testimony?
That's classic Joycian wordplay again. To swear like a Norwegian tailor is a pun on swear like a sailor, obviously. But Norwegian tailor also connects to the Norwegian captain and curse the tailor, recurring figures in the wake. And our sources note that tailors were traditionally considered unmanly. Makes this an equal opposite to the robust sailor. So this constable, presenting himself as this man of upright character, is ironically associated with a stereotype of unmanliness and excessive swearing, which immediately introduces a contradiction, doesn't it?
Yeah, it undermines him slightly.
Subtly undermines his credibility, even as he's trying to bolster it. He was testifying about being up against a right queer of a man in the Butcher of the Blues.
A queer sort of a man in the Butcher of the Blues. Okay, what was the accusation, and what kind of character is this butcher?
This queer sort of a man is another recurring motif, yeah. Here combined with Danish man for man. Querschnort, another rich Joycian blend, connects to the German periodical Der Querschnitt, cross-section, which actually published some of Joyce's poems, and German Schnorren means to cadge. Paints a picture of a difficult, maybe cadging, argumentative individual. The Butcher of the Blues refers to a butcher's or bishop's apron or blouse. Blue being a color historically associated with exceptional cooks, like cordon bleu. So this is a man who deals with meat, possibly of high standing in his trade.
Okay, and according to the constable, what did this butcher do?
According to the constable, this man continued portmanteau again, continued, but also had a gun, maybe. One source notes that, subtly adding a layer of threat. He continued on last evening, but maybe also opening, hinting at the opening of a gate or a new event, after delivering carcasses, mutton chops, and meat juice, mutton chops, meat juice. Also references Mutt and Jeff, the comic strip, and a children's chant. These were delivered on behalf of Messrs. Otto Sands and Eastman, Limerick victuallers, actual Dublin victuallers, grounding it again.
Okay, so a butcher delivered some meat. Then what? What's the crime?
The key action. This butcher went and, with his unmitigated astonishment, kicked at the dun and duress against all the rooms. Hickett implies he kicked while hiccuping, suggests he was drunk, right? And his speech was disordered, a theme that continues. Dun and duress is Irish for shut the door, but also dial can duress, which is a parting cup or stirrup cup. Fitting for an inn, as one source points out, suggests a place of drinking. And he was kicking against all the rules, clearly breaking societal norms.
Okay, drunken disorderly conduct, basically. Kicking a door.
Seems like it. And when challenged about this pretended the hiccup or the kick, the butcher replied with this stammering, evasive answer. I a pot pie oath, Philip's captain. You did, as I stressed before. It's a complex mix. Why, upon my oath becomes I a pot pie oath, but maybe also apologize. Or a reference to Apophis, an Egyptian demon god. Who knows? Philip's captain brings in that famous story of Philip II of Macedon, the one who, when drunk, condemned a woman unjustly, led her to appeal from Philip drunk to Philip sober.
Ah, right. So the butcher might be appealing for sober judgment? Or just drunk?
Well, according to Campbell, this entire exchange, filled with linguistic confusion, allusions to historical drunkenness, appeals for sobriety. It basically just means the butcher was completely drunk.
Yeah.
So the testimony itself is already shrouded in the unreliability of alcohol-induced chaos, sets the stage for a dramatic conflict of accounts.
So we have a potentially unreliable constable testifying about a clearly drunk butcher. Classic unreliable narrator situation. But then the constable's testimony is abruptly interrupted. "You are deep-knee in error, sir," Madam stuttered Tompkins. "Let me then tell you," replied with a gentlewomanly salaam McPartland. And Phelps was flayful with his peeler. But his fizz fell. Wow. This takes a sudden dramatic turn, challenges everything we've just heard.
This is where the story gets really interesting, yeah. The narrative takes this dramatic turn, questioning the very credibility of that initial testimony. Deep knee in error, clever play on deeply in error and knee-deep. But also suggests a bow, maybe. A genuflection, perhaps in mock deference or genuine respect as the truth comes out. Madam stuttered Tompkins refers to Tompkins the constable, maybe another character. Also Tom King, an 18th century Dublin actor. The stuttering motif implies a lack of fluency or maybe truth. Casts doubt on the constable's confident account.
So the constable's story is being picked apart.
Seems like it. McPartland, identified as a meat man, a butcher, but also maybe a Meath man, connecting him to an Irish county makes a gentlewomanly salaam. That's an oriental salutation, a deep bow. A gesture that's both respectful and subtly defiant. Challenges the constable's authority.
So this McPartland figure, likely the butcher himself, is directly contradicting the constable. And then we have Phelps was flayful with his peeler, but his fizz fell. What's the immediate consequence of this confrontation? What happens to Phelps, presumably the constable?
Phelps was flayful with his peeler, another richly layered phrase. Mr. Phelps was a 19th century Dublin actor, suggests a theatrical element to this courtroom drama, almost like the whole thing is a performance. Flayful means playful, sure, but flay and peel both mean to remove skin. Hints at exposing the truth, revealing something hidden beneath the surface. And a peeler is an Anglo-Irish term for a policeman, so it's a scene of maybe an actor being playful with a policeman, or perhaps the butcher, McPartland, being confrontational with the constable, Phelps, stripping away his false narrative.
Unpeeling the lies.
Exactly, and the outcome is clear, decisive, but his fizz fell. Fizz, colloquial for facial expression. Its fall indicates a sudden loss of composure, credibility, status. Our sources connect this directly to Genesis 4.5, where Cain's countenance fell after God rejected his offering, imbues the constable's public humiliation with this biblical weight. As Campbell's synopsis states succinctly, long Lally Tompkins fizz fell and his case with it. Okay. So the constable's credibility, his entire case, it just collapses under this counter-testimony, leaving us, the listener, to wonder about the true nature of the gate assault and the inherent unreliability of any single account. The truth, much like the letter, remains elusive, revealed only in fragments, conflating stories. 4. The obverse. The fates of the two park maids, pages 67.28, 69.04.
Okay, the narrative pivots again. Almost explicitly tells us to look now to the obverse. Danis Rose calls this the flip side of the coin, right? Asking us to consider a different perspective. We're told these camelback excesses are thought to have been instigated by one or either of the causes of all, those rushy, hollow heroines in their skirt sleeves. Who are these heroines that seemingly instigated so much trouble?
Yeah, this is a crucial transition. Invites us to consider a different angle on the troubles, the origins of HCE's predicament, moving from the specific incident to its underlying causing causes. Obverse means the front side, the opposite of the reverse. And as one source notes, it can also mean obvious, suggesting a truth that might have been overlooked until now. The phrase velveteens to dimities suggests this narrow spectrum, or difference in appearance, from one cotton fabric to another, implying the two heroines, despite apparent differences, are maybe cut from similar cloth. Two sides of the same coin, perhaps.
Okay, and the camelback excesses.
Could be linked to the HCE motif, yeah. Hinting at some hidden, grotesque origin or the burden of his past actions. The hump on his back, maybe. The causing causes of all are identified as those rushy, hollow heroines in their skirt sleeves. It's a multifaceted phrase. The Hollow is a bandstand area in Phoenix Park, the famous site of the alleged incident involving HCE and the Temptresses. Hollow can also imply insincere, empty, suggesting their allure might be superficial. Rushy suggests something quick, hurried, or even Russian, adds ambiguity. In their skirt sleeves means without a coat, informal, but also references Irish slya for mountain, hints at a deeper, maybe wilder nature.
So who are they?
Well, the key insight here, as one source states, is that either of the girls could have done it. Points directly to the two Temptresses from the park episode as the instigators of HEE's excesses. They are the Delilahs of this story. Seductive, potentially treacherous figures whose actions have these far-reaching consequences. And now we turn to their individual fates.
Right. And the story takes a really dark, tragic turn with one of these Delilahs. One Delilah, Lupita Lorette, shortly after, in a fit of the unexpectedness, drank Carbolic with all her dear placid life before her and paled off. A shocking end for such a figure.
It is indeed a tragic, poignant detail, highlights the destructive consequences of the park incident and the societal judgment that often follows. Delilah, direct reference to Delilah, Samson's treacherous lover from the Bible, immediately labels her as this seductive, potentially dangerous figure within the narrative. Lupita Lorette, rich with associations. Lupita is a Spanish diminutive, Valley of the Wolf, also the name of one of St. Patrick's sisters, grounds her in both this wild, primal nature and Irish sanctity. Contradictory, right? Latin lupa means she-wolf, but also prostitute. Immediately places her within the prostitution cluster, a recurring motif. French slang Lorette also means prostitute, doubles down on this theme.
Wow, so Joyce packs innocence, wildness, and illicit activity right into her name.
Absolutely, it's classic Joyce. The key insight is how he layers these contradictory elements. And her end is grim. She drank carbolic acid, phenol, a disinfectant often used as poison, a grim suicide. One source references an Evening Standard article about a mother poisoned, a daughter drinking carbolic. Lends this grim, real-world resonance, suggests such tragedies weren't uncommon.
Horrible. And she paled off.
Yeah, becoming pale, fading away. A detail often associated with the Issy half of the duo, Issy being HCE's daughter, often depicted as pale, white, given to fading, links Lupita to Issy's more ethereal, vulnerable aspect. And the phrase, all her dear placid life before her, highlights the profound tragedy of a young death. A common lament, underscores the waste, the despair stemming from the incident, and the pressures of societal judgment.
Okay. And the other sister, the other soiled dove that's her sister in love, Luperca Latouche, chose a different path, equally fraught though. Finding one day while dodging chores that she stripped teasily for Binocular Man and that her jams were jim-joyed to see each other, the Nachi girlie soon found her fruitful hat too small for her, and rapidly taking time, she rapidly took to necking, partying, and selling her spare favors. Wow, there's a lot packed into that description of her descent, or maybe her choice.
There certainly is, and it raises that important question about societal pressures versus individual choices, doesn't it? How they can lead to vastly different yet equally challenging fates. Soiled dove, again, slang for a prostitute, directly linking her to the prostitution cluster. Sister-in-love, playful distortion of sister-in-law, hints at a complex, possibly illicit familial connection, or a deep emotional bond that transcends convention, maybe suggesting a shared experience or fate. Luperca Latouche connects to Luperca, the she-wolf that suckled Romulus and Remus, founders of Rome, also a priestess of Lupercus, imbues her with this primal, almost pagan sensuality. Also evokes Rose Latouche, the young pupil John Ruskin wished to marry. Adds a layer of tragic, unfulfilled desire, Victorian repression. So the core insight, again, is that, like Lupita, her name is layered. Hints of ancient, almost animalistic allure alongside a tragic, romantic echo.
Okay, and her actions then become quite explicit. She stripped teasily for Binocular Man, and that her jams were jim-joyed to see each other. That's very direct imagery.
It is indeed. She stripteasely, brilliant portmanteau, striptease and easily. For binocular man, suggests an audience, a voyeuristic male gaze, explicitly sets up this scenario of exhibitionism. Her jams were jimp-joyed to see each other humorous and incredibly suggestive. French jam means legs, jimp-joyed, jump for joy. As one source vividly clarifies, this means her legs were always spread, so they were mutually visible with clothing removed. A vivid, almost cartoonish image of nudity, accessibility. She became a notchy girly. From Anglo-Indian notch, dancing girls, and naughty girl. Solidifies her identity as this entertainer, temptress, her fruitful hat too small for her fascinating detail. Hat can signify an office, a position. A fruitful hat could refer to a literary image. The hat becoming too small implies her head had swelled, perhaps with self-importance, notoriety. Echoes a newspaper report of a woman whose head swelled after hair dyeing. Suggests a literal and metaphorical swelling of ego or infamy.
Her head got too big for her hat, basically.
Essentially, yeah. Rapidly taking time. Look, it's an inversion. Suggests festina lente, make haste slowly, but also hints at her calculated descent into necking, partying, and selling her spare favors, which explicitly means engaging in prostitution. This progression shows a deliberate, if rapid, embrace of a scandalous lifestyle.
And where were these favors sold? The text lists this wide range of locations. In the Hamo, or in lumber closets, or in the Green-On ad hoc. There are certain intimacies in all ladies' lavatories we just lease to imagination, or in the sweet churchyard closed and sell for a bit of soft coal or an array of thin trunks. It seems no place was off limits. Emphasizes the pervasive nature of her activities.
You're right, the locations are strikingly diverse, from the mundane, rustic, to the sacrilegious. Emphasizes the pervasive, unconstrained nature of her activities, the breakdown of traditional boundaries. Haymo, where hay is stored. Hay is slang for bed, clearly suggesting illicit encounters. Lumber closets plays on lumbar, lower back, further hinting at physical acts. Green-On ad hoc, particularly layered. Green lawn. Irish green-am, a sunny house, sanctuary sometimes for women. Latin ad hoc, for a particular purpose. Dialect hook, hip. And a strong underlying slang fuck from the prostitution cluster. One source points out Green-On can also be a euphemism for a urinal, suggesting even the most unglamorous or public spaces became sites for her favors.
Grim. And then the bit about ladies' lavatories.
Yeah, certain intimacies in all ladies' lavatories we just lease to imagination, cleverly bypasses explicit description while vividly hinting at clandestine acts in private yet accessible spaces. Most shockingly, she operated in the sweet churchyard close itself, an enclosed area around a church, often a burial ground. Selling her favors for a bit of soft coal or an array of thin trunks. Soft coal could mean low-rank coal, but also gems, implying cheap trinkets or maybe something more valuable as payment. Thin trunks can refer to human bodies, humankind, or tree trunks, suggesting a reduction of human dignity to mere objects, or even encounters among the trees in the graveyard.
Sacrilegious indeed. And then the climax of this description connects her to myth.
It does. It links her actions to an ancient legendary tale. Serving whom and fine that same hot coney alla zingara, which our own little Grania of the chillier cheeks dished up to the great sire of Oscar, that son of a cool. This is a direct parallel.
So this act of selling favors, this promiscuity, is linked directly to a famous Irish myth, elevating her actions beyond just scandal.
Absolutely. And it's a brilliant stroke of Joycian myth-making. Reveals the timelessness of certain human behaviors. Hot coney alla zingara, hot from chili red, and coney, archaic for rabbit but obsolete slang for female genitalia, cunny, served gypsy-like, alla zingara. One source identifies coney as an Elizabethan term of endearment for a girlfriend, adds another layer of ironic tenderness to the explicit act. Grania of the chillier cheeks is Grania, the young betrothed of the much older Finn McCool in Irish mythology, famously eloped with Diarmuid, betraying Finn.
Ah, Grania, the great betrayal story.
Exactly. She dished up this hot delicacy, this metaphorical, seductive offering to the great sire of Oscar, that son of a cool. That's Finn himself. Grandfather of Oscar, son of cool, come hall. This comparison elevates Luperca's promiscuity, her seductive power, to a legendary archetypal betrayal, connects her to iconic figures of Irish myth. It's a powerful statement about the timelessness of seduction, its consequences, how human behavior echoes through history and legend, and it even alludes to Oscar Wilde. His middle name was Fingal, Ossian's version of Finn McCool, as one source notes. Suggests this lineage of scandalous behavior, public notoriety. This isn't just a story about one woman, it's a commentary on enduring patterns of seduction, betrayal, and reputation.
Okay, so with all this scandal swirling around Luperca, how did the man, presumably HCE, the one caught in the Phoenix Park incident, how did he react to her scandalous behavior? The text reads, and did not he, like Arco 40, far off the Savalot, misbrand her behaviors with iridescent huequerie of downright mean, false, soplap, sick dope?
This is like a condemnation, maybe. It does sound like a condemnation, yes, but it's couched in highly ambiguous terms, as is typical for HCE. The passage states that he misbrand her behaviors, meaning he misbranded, misunderstood, or misrepresented her behavior, suggests his judgment might be flawed or self-serving. Arco 40 combines Italian arco, forte, bow, strong, references Strongbow, leader of the Anglo-Norman invaders of Ireland, also alludes to Noah's Ark, the 40 days, nights of rain, suggests this distant, almost mythical condemnation, an ancient, almost biblical judgment. Far off Basavolo, Danish far, paternal grandfather, and Italian Basavolo, great-grandfather, emphasizes the ancient generational nature of this judgment, links HCE's reaction to this almost primordial condemnation.
Okay, so a very grand, distant sort of judgment.
And he misbranded her with an iridescent Hue-Cry. Iridescent means displaying colors like a rainbow, connects back to the 7 colors of the rainbow motif from the letter, suggests a multifaceted, maybe deceptive display. Hue-Cry is a play on Hue-and-Cry, public outcry, but also Iris, the rainbow goddess, creates the synesthetic blend with a musical scale. So he condemned her with this colorful, public, and perhaps hypocritical denunciation.
So he publicly condemned her, but with this iridescent Hue-Cry, maybe it wasn't entirely sincere, or it was complicated. The text also painted her earlier as Houri of the coast of Emerald, Ara of the Lecessive Pogu, Eslim al-Muslim, the resigned to her surrender, and linked her to Eva, daughter of Diarmaid MacMurrough. Sounds like she was quite a provocative figure, almost a national symbol herself.
Indeed. She's portrayed as this beautiful nymph, an Emerald Isle figure. Provocative, lascive, meaning enticing, and surrendering, Aslam al-Muslim. The comparison to Eva, daughter of Diarmaid MacMurrough, who married Strongbow, is crucial. It symbolizes Ireland's union with England, elevates her to this figure of historical national significance, not just some local scandal. Her pitch was 40 steps and is perch Old Cromwell's quarters, concrete Dublin locations with real historical weight, where she plied her trade. She engaged in acts with so Valkyrie a license as sent many a poor pucker packing to perdition, compares her allure to the Norse Valkyries who guide fallen heroes, sending many to ruin through her seductive power.
Right. It seems like this cycle of temptation and condemnation, described with incredible linguistic richness. Did he actually condemn her loudly? Or was there something preventing a full outcry, something holding him back?
That's the critical question, isn't it? And it shifts our understanding of his reaction. We're told she would sifidar him, tease Fido, challenging him, teasing him, like Molly Bloom teasing her dog in Ulysses, and repeatedly uttering phrases like, stop, please stop. That's a recurring motif in the Wake. This implies a sexual provocation met with resistance, or maybe hesitation, from him. The text describes a kingly man of royal mien, regally robed, exalted be his glory, who hesitated, his eyes ravenous on her lippling lils, hearing her voice of day gone by, hear say. Also JJ for James Joyce, French zéamant for speech defect. But crucially, by the beer of his profit, he cannot answer.
He cannot answer. That's pivotal.
It is. The man who profits from beer, a publican like HCE, is silenced. Our sources, including Danis Rose, state he would have been pressurized into silence, implying blackmail or significant societal pressure prevented a public outcry.
So his silence, despite his supposed Hue-Cry, suggests something far more insidious is going on, like blackmail. And the text then connects us to a broader idea about hidden shames, doesn't it?
Exactly. This silence leads directly to that broader theme. Nor needs none shaft Nastale from Phoenicia or Little Asia to obelize on the spout, neither Pobel-Clock, neither Folkestone, nor sunkenness in Tomar's Wood to be ray how our press gangs score off the rude. What this means, basically, is that no grand memorial, no ancient shaft or stele, an upright stone slab, no public clock, Pobel-Clock, or Folkestone, a place of public assembly, not even the legendary sunkenness in Tomar's Wood, associated with Thor in the Battle of Clontarf, none of that is needed to mark these hidden shames. There's no need for monuments to expose how our Prisking's blackmailers profit from the rude, those who have been wronged or regret. These whispered sins are powerful enough not to need monumental acknowledgement. This section underlines a fundamental truth about public perception. Some truths are just too scandalous, too inconvenient to be openly displayed, yet their impact is deeply felt, exploited in the shadows.
Okay, so what's the ultimate takeaway from these complex, intertwined tales of Lupita and Luperca, their fates, and the man's complex, silenced reaction? It seems to be building to a very specific and maybe quite cynical conclusion about human nature.
I think so. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the conclusion is stark, timeless. A profound comment on human nature and societal dynamics. The mouth that tells not will ever attract the unthinking tongue, and so long as the obscene draws theirs, which hear not so long till a earth's dumb nation shall the blind lead the deaf. Quote. That's a profound echo of Matthew 15.14. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch.
Right.
It speaks to the inevitability of rumor, gossip, misunderstanding when truth is withheld, and the danger of ignorance, societal damnation, alerts nation. It's the cyclical process where a lack of information or willful ignorance perpetuates confusion, misjudgment, and those who should see or hear remain oblivious.
The blind leading the deaf. Powerful image.
Isn't it? Chacho tani yeklings. Italian tacho means I am silent or I accuse. Gypsy tani yex means little ones or grandchildren, implies a silencing of the weaklings, a command for silence amid the unfolding drama. Suggests the vulnerable are often the ones silenced or ignored in these narratives. The column of lumps lends the patron of the leaves behind us refers to a disorderly military formation, from Digger dialects, and the patron, a gypsy trail of leaves or grass, which, like the symbol of Kumai's prophetic leaves, can become disordered, unintelligible if scattered, leaves behind a confused, fragmented record of events for future generations.
Okay, and then the final powerful statement. It summarizes the intertwined themes of this section, almost like a thesis statement for Joyce here. It asks, if violence to life, limb and chattels, often as not, has been the expression, direct or through an agent male, of womanhood offended, has not Livia of Blackmail from the times the fairies were in it, and famed for wild earth blottoms followed an impressive private reputation for whispered sins. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if offended womanhood often leads to violence, then blackmail, too, follows a whispered reputation for strange sins. Is that the connection?
Precisely. You've hit the core insight right there. Woman offended could mean womanhood or maybe womanheed, hidden, hinting at a deeper, perhaps concealed transgression against women. Life, limb, and chattels. That's a legal phrase for forfeiture, highlights the severe consequences of these acts. The implication is that if women's honor or dignity is violated, whether directly or through male agents, then the resulting impressive private reputation for whispered sins, a phrase one source notes Frank Aris used to describe Oscar Wilde's early notoriety, tying it to real-world scandal and that intersection of public and private lies, then that reputation often leads to a levy of blackmail. As Danis Rose emphasizes, if violence has been the instrument of womanhood offended, then blackmail has since the earliest times followed shortly thereafter. This paints a picture of a society where scandal, secrecy, extortion are deeply ingrained, often stemming from obscured truths, reactions to perceived female transgressions. It's a cyclical, almost inevitable pattern in the human condition, where the fear of exposure, the desire for concealment just fueled this vicious cycle of sin and exploitation. And the text suggests these patterns are ancient, right? Stretching back to the times the fairies were in it. Highlights the timeless, mythic dimensions of these human flaws. These pages reveal that in the dark recesses of human interaction, the threads of seduction, rumor, and blackmail are just perpetually rewoven.
So, what does this all mean for us? Navigating these really intricate layers of Joyce's work, trying to make sense of the world through it. In just these few pages, we've journeyed through the enigma of a constantly transforming chain letter, the symbolic weight of a coffin that blurs life and death. A comical but ultimately revealing courtroom drama that highlights the unreliability of truth, and then the tragic yet scandalous tales of Lupita and Luperca. It's a masterclass, isn't it, in how seemingly disparate narratives weave together to form this rich, often disorienting tapestry of human experience.
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Joyce uses these micro-incidents, a letter, a coffin, a gate, two women, to explore these huge macro themes. Human communication, mortality, societal judgment, the profound complexity of interaction, memory. What's so striking here is how the text constantly shifts perspectives, blurs the lines between fact and fiction, public perception and private truth, makes us question the very nature of definitive truth in a world just rife with rumor and hidden agendas. It's a testament, really, to the idea that there are always multiple perspectives enriching our understanding, and that absolute truth is often elusive, especially when it's shadowed by human frailty and transgression.
Yeah. And this journey through Finnegans Wake, even just these few pages, it proves that being well-informed means looking beyond the surface, doesn't it? digging past the initial appearance to find the deeper currents of meaning. These pages are just filled with those aha moments you get when you start to connect the dots, realizing how echoes of myth, history, human folly play out across seemingly random events, creating this mosaic of understanding.
Which raises an important question, I think, for all of us listening. Consider how often in our own lives the facts of a story are shaped not just by what is said, but by who is listening, who is testifying, and maybe most importantly, who is ultimately silenced. What whispered sins might still linger unspoken in the public narratives we accept as truth today? And how might they continue to shape our understanding of the world even without grand monuments or explicit pronouncements? It's a powerful call to critical thinking, always, urging us to question the narratives we encounter and to look for the hidden truths beneath the surface. Something to chew on, definitely.